Hello and welcome. I'm Emmanuel Carriere, and today I'm going to be talking to you about economic divide, which is our project which we're doing at the moment. So when I first heard about the brief, I was really excited because I like going out to take pictures in my spare time anyway. So I thought straight away I'm going to enjoy this task. So what is an economic divide, you may be asking? Economic divide is rich versus poor and how they are together. So if you think about it, for example, it could be a bank and you have a poor person sleeping outside a bank, which would be seen as rich. So straight away you got economic divide, which usually happens on a daily basis. So what images, pictures did I think of for my initial plan? So straight away I was thinking I want to have people, I want to have locations, and I want to have buildings. They were the three things I was thinking of, because with people, I wanted to see their stories, through their facial expression, what they were thinking. Secondly, buildings. I wanted to see how a very expensive, rich building was run down by the poor. It could either be graffiti, it could either be rubbish, it could be people. So straight away. So the first thing we had to do, of course, was research. So I went onto Google and I found 6 very good images which explains what I want to do for my brief. So the first image I found was of a family at a train station, and outside it, all around them, was expensive and rich stuff. But you can see that they're a middle class family, but they're enjoying life and they're all happy. And I thought that was really good because it shows that even though they're a middle class family, they're not upper class, not lower class, but they're normal working people. And I thought that was really good because you see how you don't have to be happy all the time when it comes to money. So I thought that was a very good image. That's the reason I picked it. With my second image, it was of a building and it had a rat on it, like a picture. And I thought that was really good because you see a nice building and you just see how kind of run down it is with like a big picture with graffiti. But then other people, on the other hand, people might say it's art and they really enjoy it. So I'm on that 50-50. I don't really mind it. I think it looks really good. This supported my initial ideas because I wanted people, I wanted locations, and I wanted buildings. And I got all of those during my initial plan. So I kind of thought to myself next, what kind of stories do I want coming out when I go out and take my own photos? So the next stage I had to think about was planning. So locations, people, narratives. So with locations, we went to places such as Bethnal Green, Shoreditch, Stepney Green, Whitechapel, you name it, we went there. And it was really good because we went out on our own to see these places and find out kind of more about them, more history behind them, and we got some really good photos, by the way. But we also went out as a group and as a class, and I thought that was really good because we got closer to one another and we kind of found out more about the other person that we didn't know, and we've been in the same class for 2 years. So the sort of images I was trying to go for were images definitely of people. I wanted to get their facial expression so you can really see what they were thinking in their facial expression. Even though they didn't say anything, it was in their facial expression. I would know a lot of that since I do drama and I do acting as a hobby. But anyway, so I was thinking of like buildings. So I definitely wanted to get very big buildings, very small buildings, and kind of show the outside of them, of course. And then inside, we don't get to see inside, but we can make a story of what it would be like inside. So then it was time to take the photos. So I got a lot of images, but we could only pick 8 to 10. So I kind of had to do kind of like lotto, pick and choose, right and wrong, I guess. So the techniques which inspired me to use in my photos, I definitely wanted to have shutter speed because since I was getting everyday life of London, it's quite quick, it's quite fast pace. So shutter speed was very important here because if you was getting something really quickly like a car or a bus or a person on a bike, for example, you had to get it then and there because otherwise it'd be gone. So another technique definitely would be, so obviously aperture, so you have to make sure your aperture settings were correct, because otherwise it could all go wrong with the aperture. So you have to make sure the settings in the camera was right with your depth of field, ISO, you have to make sure all those things are right before you're actually taking a photo that you need. But obviously with shutter speed you have to be really quick, because otherwise the photo will go, as I said before. So I practiced a lot of the techniques beforehand, but I was a person, I struggled a lot with the techniques and I found it quite difficult, but with the help from my classmates and with the help from my teacher, I kind of got a bit more confident with knowing what the different settings were, and obviously not to have the aperture too high, not to have it too low, and depending on what situation you're taking the photo in, basically. So yeah. So with the techniques, so we have exposure, we have aperture, we have shutter speed, we have ISO, cropping and straightening. So I'm going to talk a bit about them. So with exposure, it's either if the photo is too dark or if it's too light. That's basically what it is. So take loads of them just in case you have really, really bright ones, just because your settings can be really high, or you can have really, really dark ones. So and obviously you ain't gonna be able to see the image if it's too loud, too dark. So just make sure you have the right, correct settings before you take the photo, and make sure you take loads of them just in case. So aperture, obviously with the depth of field, make sure your depth of field is right. Don't have, with your setting, make sure it's all right before you take it, because your depth of field can be really shallow sort of thing, for example. So make sure that's right. Shutter speed, so obviously if you're getting something really quickly, make sure you're fast paced, make sure you take it, but then obviously you can have camera shake, you can have blur, which will destroy the image, so that's another thing to think about. And ISO, obviously, make sure you set it up, because obviously it's how much light is coming in, make sure not too much light is coming in if you're taking it on a very bright day, but if it's very dark, obviously you have to just reduce the light up so that enough light's going through. Obviously with cropping and straightening, that's just, if your picture's a bit wonky, obviously straighten it up, crop it if you have to crop out stuff that's not needed there, for example. So they're just kind of the settings which you have to think about before you take the image. So with my 9 images that I did, obviously I tried to make sure each of the things were right, make sure each of the settings were right before I took the photo. So obviously with exposure, there was one of my photos where it's called I'm Not the Only One, which was to do with a homeless guy, and I wanted the right amount of light to go through because it was a very bright day that day. So I had to kind of take the image, but obviously I had to turn down, make sure not enough light was coming through because it was quite a bright day. But then I kind of took it with the light quite bright as well, even though it was a bright day, because I tried to see that contrast when I took loads of images of this one picture to see which one would give me the right amount of light going through, basically. So throughout this project, I did need a lot of help because it's quite difficult for me, you know? I'm sorry. But yeah, it was hard. So there was a lot of help I needed from my classmates and from my teachers, because I just didn't really understand the settings, and when I took the image, I just took them and thought, okay, it must be right. But then going back, my teacher sent me out a couple of times. I had to do it 3 or 4 times. And yeah, it was quite boring, but to be honest, Sir meant well, and I appreciated that he did do that because I learned how to use the settings more. So the way I kind of acted upon it was in my own time. I went out on my own and I just decided to take the photos with the settings which Sir taught us about. And from then, now I understand the settings a lot more, and I appreciate that, and I thank you, Sir, for helping me do that. So now, I'm going to talk about my images. So, first image is the eyes don't lie. That was quite scary, wasn't it? Anyway, I decided this image because in the photo, it's showing normal life of London. I put the effect on the photo because I wanted it to be like a short movie telling us about London, or it could be somebody's eye and them looking through it. The photo was taken in Whitechapel. It was not going to be my initial idea when I took the photo, but then I decided that it should be. The story behind the picture is, I would say, it could be advertising a new short movie about London. The effects I have put on the picture makes me think of a documentary about Whitechapel and finding out a lot about the history of the place. That was not my indication I wanted for the picture in the beginning. I was just messing around with the effects, but then I kind of liked it in the end. I decided to pick a high ISO because I took different shots of the same location and had different ISO settings. So this one, in my opinion, is the best one. I had a faster shutter speed because I didn't want to allow too much light to come in and I didn't want to miss the action which is going on, which is what I wanted to show. I took the photo really quickly because I wanted to show everyday life of London. I wanted a lot of things happening in the picture. So I had the right moment and clicked the camera fast. I also, with the palette, I made a black outline on the corner of the picture, making it more movie-like. The purpose in this picture I was going for is a new promotional video about Whitechapel. I think my picture links to the brief because it's showing everyday life of Londoners and how poor plus rich people are together in one place and have old plus new buildings together also. So what would I do differently about this picture? So I definitely would focus more on the settings because I feel like I could have experimented a bit more and shown the different settings in my opinion. But other than that, I think I really enjoyed this picture, and remember, the eyes don't lie. So someone at my church called Beth, I showed her the photo and she evaluated it, and she really enjoyed the image. She thought it'd be a very good movie, like the effect I put on it made it more movie-like, so she really enjoyed it. So she did say there was a few things which I could have worked on, which was, for example, we could have had it on a slight angle, we could have had it experimented a bit more, I guess, with the image and not just put it straight away up there. So there was a few things which she commented on. But number 2 is called The Look of Life. I call this picture The Look of Life. The reason I chose this name is because when I saw the picture straight away, I see the person being like a town caller, knowing a lot about London. There's not much going on in the photo, but I deliberately chose that image because I wanted just a person and not people focusing on everything around them, but the person that we're looking at right now. The Look of Life works really well with the person's facial expression. I could imagine an audience in front of the person and that person talking about London, giving older plus newer audiences a chance to learn more about the city they live in. So with the settings, I definitely wanted a shallow depth of field because I think that worked well for the image. So Joel, he really liked the name, The Look of Life. He thought that was good. He just thought there needs to be more going on in the image. So what I would do differently next time, definitely, is kind of have more going on in it to show economic divide because the audience might get confused with what's going on in the image. Number 3 is called The Odd One Out. I chose this image because I liked how there were 2 fresh new buildings and then in the middle a burnt out one, and it's not very appealing for the audience, is it? It fits the brief because the economic divide shows a lot here with 2 newer buildings and then one in the middle which is not new and it's not fresh. So I kind of thought that worked because you kind of see 2 rich and then 1 poor in the middle, which worked fantastically well. The photo was taken in Liverpool Street, and when I saw it straight away, I thought to myself, I'm gonna take this image because it works well for the brief. I decided not to put any effects on the image because I don't think it needs any because the story tells it straight away. So another person at my church called Anya, she evaluated it and she thought the name The Odd One Out worked fantastically well because the middle one is definitely the odd one out, so the title and the picture contrast together very well. She thought the picture was successful because the exposure was correctly done here. She thought the exposure was done well. It wasn't too bright, it wasn't too dark. 4 is the ad in the wrong place. So with this picture, I liked how there was something new being advertised with everything around it graffiti, dirty and not appealing. It fits the brief very well because this shows economic divide because it's a new program is being advertised. You would want it to be in a new, fresh location and not next to graffiti in a rundown place. Also, with this picture, I decided not to put an effect on it because I didn't think it needed one again, and I wanted the picture to be how it was. The photo was also taken in Shoreditch, and with this picture, I remember taking a few so I could get the right one because there was people in it and didn't think like they needed to be needed there. I remember standing there looking at the set and thinking, why would they choose to advertise Indian Summers, which is a new program on Channel 4, in a rundown place? Number 5 is I'm Not the Only One. And this picture was probably the most kind of meaningful, and I thought it was the best one in my opinion. So the reason I took this picture is because it's a homeless person, and what I find weird about his photo is that usually it's a busy place because it's Bethnal Green and there's a train station and a pub, which is usually always busy, next to it. But since the homeless guy is there, the street is quiet, which is what I thought was a bit weird. I think the picture shows the economic divide because next to the place where the homeless person is sleeping is a famous pub, but no one around to help the poor person, while all the rich people are spending their money in the pub. The picture was taken in Bethnal Green when we went out as a class to take photos. The black and white effect that I put on it makes the photo stand out more, but also the colour of the photo can indicate how the person is feeling, because I put a kind of dark effect on it because, the person's feeling sad, feeling quite lonely, so I kind of put a cold colour. But you see the white writing and the white border, that can indicate that something good could be happening to this homeless guy. So I talked to somebody, a close friend of mine called Shannon, and she evaluated the photo for me. She really liked how I put the effect on, and she liked how I took the photo because she thought straight away, I'm not the only one. That shows that like there's a lot of homeless people around. It's not Sam Smith's song. I kind of wish it was, but I decided to call it I'm Not the Only One because I thought it worked best, not because of Sam Smith. So yeah, Shannon really enjoyed the picture. She said that I could have took a more kind of close-up of him or more lower angle, because then I could have took it from his level, so then you kind of understand how he's feeling from his level than having me stand up. Number 6. The trainer that has lost his foot. Oh no, I wonder where that foot is now. I remember taking this picture, and straight away I was thinking, what's the story behind it? Then I started looking at it quite closely and taking things out and making a story out of it. So with this picture, it fits the economic divide because there's an expensive shoe inside a run-down and old phone box. The story behind which I've come up with is that the shoe could have a strong message, who knows? There could be a note on it for someone to find under it. The question I think is, why is there only one? Where's the other one? The picture was taken in Bethnal Green when we had to take pictures on our own. And I was on my way home and saw this and thought to myself, I need to take a picture of it. I think this picture is cool, having a shoe in a phone box. So a cool effect had to go on it, which made the picture, in my opinion, better. So with the name, the trainer that had lost his foot, I thought, obviously, the trainer's missing his feet because the other foot has his trainer. So straight away, it's like two friends which have kind of moved apart, and it's only one, and it's missing his friend. So that's why I thought I'd call it a trainer that has lost his foot, because it has lost his foot. So I thought that was quite important. So I got Dan to evaluate. So if you guys don't know who Dan is he was in Ultimatum as PC Miller, and he evaluated my photo. So he really enjoyed the name. He thought the name worked perfectly for it. He did think I could have done a more, took it from the trainer's level. So another one being on the ground and not standing up, because he thought it'd be better to kind of have the picture would be stronger if I was on my knees and I took the photo. Number 7 is the big difference on the same road. I think this picture works very well for the economic divide because straight away on the left hand side you kind of see the poorer side, and on the right hand side it's more rich. So straight away I thought it worked. I like this picture the most because firstly the way I've taken it, but also the economic divide shows a lot more in this picture because poor versus rich shows exactly on each side. The photo was taken in Whitechapel when we went out as a class, and I was just looking through the pictures and saw this and thought it worked perfectly. I decided to put an effect on it because it makes the picture stand out more and it gives more of a storyline. On the left hand side, we see rubbish overflowed with boxes on the side, and on the other, it's more clean and fresh. So on the right, we see NatWest, we see the Idea store, which are all rich. On the left, you see people's stores and that, which people see as quite poor. So I thought it was like a kind of battle between the poor left side and then the rich right side. So I thought the big difference on the same road, because it's on the same road, but you kind of have that line drawn in the middle. So I asked my other friend Ellie to evaluate number 7 for me, and she liked the name of the image. She thought that worked because they're both in the same road. She did think with the aperture it could have been a bit more better. That kind of lacked a bit. But the composition of the photo, the way it's been laid out, she thought it was fantastically well, and she thought it was a very good image, and the name worked for it fantastically well as well. So she loved the sharpness of the photo, like the detail in the photo. There wasn't a lot going on. It was really crisp. Everything is clear. Number 8 is the green door of graffiti. So with this picture, I picked it from my portfolio because on the right we see a cafe restaurant, and next to it graffiti showing the economic divide. Because if we are looking at it with class, graffiti will be more a lower class, while the cafe restaurant would be working class or upper class. I think it's great how both of the things are together in one image, and that's what I wanted when I first saw the picture. This photo was taken in Whitechapel when I was a class, and when I saw it straight away, I didn't really know a storyline for it, but I thought it showed the economic divide because people think of graffiti as quite run down, and then you have like an expensive cafe on the right, so that's why I thought it worked. So the story I've come up with in this picture is I see equality within class, and now it's the 21st century, seeing the graffiti as art, and who knows, this could bring in public, because you don't know, they might like graffiti, so they might come in. But then we see someone technically ruined it by scribbling all over it. So that's where the kind of economic side comes into it. So I chose to name the green door graffiti because, you think of the big green monster, I was thinking of the big green door of graffiti, So that's the reason why I picked that. It's like a little pun that I came up with. So I got Joel, as he done my second photo. He decided to do another photo of mine, and he didn't really get the image that well. Like, he didn't really understand the economic divide in his photo, but he thought it was a good image how I took it, but he just didn't really understand it that much. So I think if I can work on it again, I would definitely make sure I apply those settings, aperture, with shutter speed, make sure I get a better shutter speed image of it or something like that. So it's just more interesting, I guess, and more economic divide is coming out of it, and I think that's what Joel was trying to say when he evaluated it. So the last picture I'm going to talk about is number 9, which is no more care for tradition. So with this picture, I picked it from my portfolio because I liked how a phone box, which is noticeable in London, is next to rubbish. The reason I really like this photo is because something that has been around for years is not getting any value anymore, because people think they don't get used that much, so you can just put rubbish next to it. The photo was taken in Whitechapel. When I saw it, straight away I took the photo. I think the picture links to the brief because economic divide comes out a lot here, but this time it's like to do with objects and have something with generation of people know, the phone box, alongside boxes of rubbish, which was run down. I like how I took a straight angle because I wanted the audience to look at the object I'm portraying on screen. I did take a couple of photos though, so I could pick the best one out of them, and I feel like this one is. So I put an effect on it because you can see how kind of run down it looks, telephone box. But we all know telephone box for years, and they're not getting no more value. And that's why I called it no more care for tradition, because no one's caring about the old tradition anymore, and people are just people are just not caring about it anymore. And that kind of angers me, because we know the phone box. Why would you destroy it? So I got Beth to evaluate it. She evaluated my first image as well, and she loved this image. She thought the name fantastically well, because she feels like a lot of people are not the trademarks and traditions that we have in London. People are not caring for them anymore. So that's why she thought it was good. She said the shutter speed in this picture is at the right settings. I don't see any problems with shutter speed. There's nothing in this picture that you have to crop, because everything there is for a reason. And that is true. I didn't crop anything. I put a little effect in it because I wanted to look more run down, more interested in the photos. So that's the reason why I did it. So I'm going to round up by saying I hope you have learned a lot. I don't seem to be finding my words today. I hope you have learned. I just think I just gotta leave. Who's this? What is going on today?